I wanted to get into the general question, guys. Governor just announced that masks are going to be required in public. I don't know what that's going to look like as far as enforcement, but as far as like an attitude change here in Ohio, I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts. And yeah, how do you think it's going to change what we do?
I'll go ahead. I think that the virus is winning, and I think, whether or not you think the masks are working or not working, I think at this point we just have to do whatever we can. If we want to stay open, if you want to see some sports coming up, it's just better off to wear the masks. I mean, I at first I was like, the masks should be a right. You should have a right to choose if you're going to wear a mask. But at this point, with everything being reopened, I just think it's just better off, to make it mandatory. I'm with it.
Cool. What?
It's a part of the new normal. I think we should just respect it. I have African print mask for sale if anybody needs one.
Nice.
Nice.
What about you, Chang? How are you as a bar manager? How are you going to manage this? Like, are you prepared? Is there security staff like ready to have that conversation with people who aren't having it?
Absolutely. So I mean, that's kind of what I spent my day doing before I got here. Ultimately, the goal is to stay open and to generate business. And in order to do that, you have to comply. It's not. Personally, my opinion, I think, is moot. Whatever the governor and the general public, the mayor dictates, we should follow those guidelines because ultimately they will determine our existence or not. And I certainly don't want to be the one that sits there and screams, well, we should have a right of choice, and then our irresponsibility in that regard led to us being ultimately shut down. Is it hard to manage? Absolutely. But that's why, certain choices were made, even within our company. We said this was the time to keep Midway closed. It's really hard to manage a pure nightclub where we don't have, James, you have the luxury at Dahlia where your primary bottle service club, I'll label you that. Mm-hmm. And so you have seated sections. At Midway, we don't have any. There's no seating. Everybody stands and it's kind of just a giant pit. And sure. I don't have the ability to manage, young adults to be like, hey, you guys have to keep. Unfortunately, if you've read all the guidelines, I don't know if you guys have. They're hard to know, and I'm not blaming the government for this, but it was hard for them to put out these guidelines in a very good manner because it's something they've never faced. So their solution was. Groups of 10 can dance together, but they must be 6 feet apart from other groups of 10. And I look at that and I laugh like that. This doesn't make any, sense, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, we have to do our best to enforce it. I talked to their security staff about, hey, everybody has to keep their masks on. You guys are constantly going to have to patrol and be like, hey, put it on, and just be kind and remind them that, listen, we're all having fun here, but in order for us to keep this fun, we don't want to go back to like a month ago when we couldn't go out anywhere. So let's do ourselves, and everybody else courtesy so that we can maintain a degree of normalcy in our lifestyle to wear a mask. It's uncomfortable. It sucks. But at the end of the day, what's worse is not having anything.
Right. Sure. Like you said, the key word is trying to stay open, and that should be what matters. So,
especially for DJs. So you guys know how I feel about it. I agree that masks are effective based on what I've heard, and I'm encouraging it. I agree with the governor. However, I do believe in hearing both viewpoints and multiple viewpoints. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I've been out and I see people, they have their mask on, but they're not covering their nose. They have their mask on, but they're adjusting it with their hands that they just touched a doorknob with a million times. So there are people that argue that humans are so bad at wearing masks that it's actually more harmful. Do you guys subscribe to that? Have you heard anything? Have you seen yourself, like people just wearing masks inappropriately? And if you're watching this and you're planning on wearing masks, maybe you weren't before, please use the straps, and especially if you're touching things, and continue to wash your hands. But yeah, sorry, I'm rambling. What do you guys think about like the alternate kind of maybe masks are more harmful?
I think sometimes people are just lazy. You know, sometimes, you know, they just don't care. You know, it's so easy just to want to pull your mask down to breathe or just to want to have a conversation. But I think we can definitely do it. I think China has been doing it for years. I think we just have to adapt. That's it. We just got to
And
follow.
Whitney, like you said, it's the new normal, and it's going to be like that for a while, probably.
Let's just hop on board so we can move forward.
What's up, Gonzo? What's up, Sam? Sorry there, Chang.
No, you're good. I'm going to answer your question without actually answering and saying that, you know, the opinion is of whether it works or not, I think is absolutely, to me, it's moot. If the governor orders it and we want to stay open, then we follow it. Yes. And we do our best to have as much, you want to, like you reiterated what I said earlier, the goal is to stay open and to conduct business. So we will do whatever we can to do that and to get as much business as possible. And that to me is my guiding principle. Yes, you know, that may be a little bit not in the public health as my primary focus, but you know, my duty is also to employees and my employer, like from a fiduciary sense, to get them as much money as possible. So, you know, the argument of whether or not it works or not, to me, is not an important argument. It's if the governor says so, the mayor says so, then I'm going to follow that to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, man,
that's it, man.
It's fun. It's interesting to hear your take, because since you're an actual bar manager. But I would just say this: like, there's the people that I went and got lunch today, and I walked in and I was wearing a mask, and then some of the people in the line to get food were not wearing a mask, and one of the people without the mask kind of not rolled their eyes at me, but you could tell were like, and it's just kind of like, look, if you don't want to wear a mask, just stay home. At the end, like, it's to the point where those people, like you said, that aren't taking it serious, they will once they get the virus. Yeah. You know, but what is that going to do?
But even so, man, the mask doesn't necessarily protect you from getting it. It's more so you're not, if you have it, that you're not spreading it to other people. So again, it's a lot. Let's just hope that, you know, these precautions go well, and that we can set an example for the rest of the country as a way to deal with this. Kind of like you were saying, with like, hey, China's been doing it. They, you know, they have normal people like us, like we can handle it too. Unfortunately, I want to go straight to another heavy topic, guys. As some of you heard, another EDM producer has been accused by multiple women of sexual assault. We've had DJAXCESS, Space Jesus is the new one. I feel like when something hits like national news about DJing, we should talk about it. So do you think these are isolated incidents, or do you think within the EDM world that there's an overarching issue of sexual assault? And with you being a woman DJ, I want to go to you first, if that's okay.
I don't think it just happens in the EDM world. I think it just happens regularly, you know, and people don't talk about it. There's been a situation when I was at work on a cruise ship, and you know, one of the bar staff, he was really cool, always upbeat, you know, happy. He was drinking on the clock, and he kept coming over to the DJ booth and just trying to do way too much, trying to get too touchy-feely, and like he grabbed my ass. Like, we ain't even cool, but just off top, that's disrespectful. I had to report him. And it's just like, I know he maybe didn't mean no harm, but it's just disrespectful. It's violating. And I think it just happened. It happens so often, and people are afraid to speak up. Women are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to lose their jobs. They're afraid what people will think. And I think I think people should speak up. I think we should have more conversations like this. If you're not the playful type, just say that. You know, just situations like that, I think, could help prevent situations like that happen. Having these conversations and just being upfront with people, just being real.
And so much power to you for, you know, for reporting, because I know a lot of that stuff does go unreported, unfortunately. I want to ask you, like, do you feel like the crews, your superior, whoever you reported to, do you feel like they handled it correctly?
Yeah, it was one of those things like, don't say nothing. And I felt like, don't tell anyone. I had to come tell you, like, I'm just overall a cool person. So I don't want to get nobody in trouble. Like, I'm not trying to cause no problems. And, when I told the woman, the cruise staff, she handled it, and she said she'll keep it private. I didn't go around talking about it. But I didn't see him at work that next day.
Wow. Chang, you go to music festivals a lot. What do you think, man?
I think what you said, what Whitney said, is correct in that it's not exclusive to the dance community. I think what I'll say to that is, I don't know if I really want to openly say this, but I think it's general knowledge. So without trying to be too PC, narcotics usage in the EDM community and particularly at festivals is large. And so with that comes a degree of irresponsibility. And, unfortunately, that's not an excuse for it to happen, but that's maybe part of the root of it that exacerbates the bad natures of people. I think what's good about the dance community is that I'm not necessarily supporting cancel culture per se, but that people are coming out and people are supporting that. In my personal experience with Space Jesus on a personal level, I've only been with him with other dudes. So I've never had a sense he wasn't coming on to me. So I don't, never experienced that. But again, I'm not going to tell people that flat out, you must be, lying about this. He's a great guy. I think that the dance community is doing a good job of bringing things to light and making sure that we're getting rid of people in the community that are doing it improperly, and that's probably why we're seeing it more. And so I think that's maybe a good thing that we're seeing this in not that it's happening, but the fact that we're bringing it to light and not let just hush hush, burying it between something. Datsik was the first domino, and there's other people who aren't as prevalent as Space Jesus, and obviously there's some accusations against even one of the biggest ones of them all, Bass Nectar, that's going around. So hopefully we see that the community as a whole, from top to bottom, from the people throwing the festivals, choose not to book these types of people, management's dropping these types of people, and then the community doesn't support them. It's kind of a sad thing, when you see people like, well, I don't give a shit about, what they did. I still like their music. I'm like, come on, guys, there's got to be a point where we do that. So, I mean, the only recent thing I could see that was close to that was like R. Kelly. I haven't played an R. Kelly song since the documentary came out. So I think this is my answer to that. I guess overall is just that this is progress, that we're doing this, and that we're eliminating some of the crap in the industry. I'm sure it's still prevalent all across the board, but I don't think it's necessarily any more prevalent than in society as a whole.
Yep. James?
I'll just be quick because I think Chang hit it on the nail, or the nail on the head there. But like Whitney said, it's not just the electronic industry, but let's talk about the electronic industry with this situation. From my experience, a lot of these guys that we bring in can be cocky at times, and maybe they feel entitled to certain things. I think that that's a problem, and I think just not being respectful, it's going to start to come to light, like you said, Chang. I think it was happening before, and now people are just starting to be public with their experiences. And then the electronic community is strong, and I think that everyone will come together, and this will hopefully stop in its tracks. But I think it's important to be aware of what's going on. It is disappointing because you want to like somebody's music and their art, but you just, I can't listen to Datsik anymore, and I can't listen to Space Jesus because I'm going to think about that person as a person. So I think, you know, you would think it's just common sense not to do something stupid like that, like what Space Jesus is being accused of doing. But if it keeps happening, I think it'll keep coming to light. And as long as we stay coming together and being supportive of those people, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and it's much more visible with bigger names like Space Jesus and DJAXCESS. But I mean, just a month ago, I don't know if you guys saw, Graves basically got canceled.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Graves.
There, you know, and so whether they be big or small, it's good that the dance community, you know, dance community often talks about plur. Well, that respect factor is part of this. You know, I'm not a big plur guy. I'm not big on the candy and all that, but I still understand the tenets of it.
Right.
The core of it matters, is that you respect it. And, you know, I see a lot of people stand up and talk about it, and, you know, to stop playing their music, stop giving them streams, stop giving them the attention.
I agree.
Yeah, I want to. So there's one thing that this is so hard for me to say, but like, there's one thing that bugs me about it is that, like, we're all canceling these people, or some people choose to cancel these people. And, you know, America is one of those, like, innocent until proven guilty. So I think the law enforcement really needs to do a better job of listening to these women and getting the stories and understanding it, because I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I don't know Space Jesus. I don't know DJAXCESS, anything like that. But it seems like enough women have come out that, you know, this is suspicious information. So why are these people roaming the streets? So so for instance, everyone's very comfortable not playing R. Kelly music, but that Michael Jackson documentary came out a few months later. And I didn't play Michael Jackson. For those of you who know me really well, that's I can't say anymore, but that was my favorite artist of all time. So I waited 6 months before I played a Michael Jackson song. I definitely don't play him as much as I used to, and I won't play songs like PYT. So I think it's like, okay, are we ready to cancel R. Kelly, but not Michael Jackson? What if there's a scandal about Drake? Are we prepared to not play Drake in the club? So, what are you saying, Chang?
No, you're right about that. And it's hard to define those lines, but I think, you know, especially in the cases of DJAXCESS and Space Jesus, there was just, you know, and Graves in particular too, the amount of digital evidence that was shown up in those cases. It wasn't just a hearsay moment at that point. It's like, oh shit, there is a pile. And then in addition to that, the responses, I mean, let's not
Space
kid ourselves here.
Jesus.
Oh my gosh, his response was awful.
Space Jesus, that AMA might have been the worst thing I've ever. I mean, it's fitting for 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, another thing.
And Bryson saw that. Oh man, Bryson immediately took to him. Like, I was like, all right.
Bryson already hated him, so
yeah.
And good for him for that, you know. And speaking up on that,
on a different.
I want to say one thing, Corrupt, just kind of while we're here. And I think when talking about this, I think we got to say, hey, what do we do as DJs to help, right? And one thing that I heard about last year, I don't know how long this has been around, but it's asking for Angela. So I think as DJs, and if we can get like people like Petey, Chang, your staff, guys at Seesaw, to understand that if someone comes up and says, hey, I'm looking for Angela, that could be a signal that a female or anyone feels uncomfortable. So I think that's something that we need as DJs, we need to listen up for and have a plan that if someone asks us for Angela, that we know what to do. Because we can talk about this all we want, but we want also to kind of educate the DJ community on, hey, this is how we help. Go ahead, Chang.
And I think that's, this is a great platform, to talk about that sort of thing where, you have a lot of DJs, tuning in, and also guests on here to be like, remind us that that is a thing that we should be looking out for and promoting. Because, we all ultimately within one degree of separation know each other, like across the Columbus DJs, especially the ones that regularly play out in clubs. There aren't that many of us ultimately that are playing out all the time, and we should have that cognizantly in our brain, and along with that, our management staffs to understand that, to make the dance floor a safe place for everybody.
Yeah. We got to go to tips for listeners. You guys have both seen the podcast before. You know how important this segment is to me. I say it every time. If you're watching and you want to be on the show, be prepared for this. Because
he will judge you.
I think this is what it's out. Yeah. I'll make you go a little bit more in depth if it's something that we've already heard, or something that we don't think is going to be helpful for the community. But something that DJs haven't heard before, and let's go to Chang. Your tips for DJs.
Oh shit! So you're putting this on me, the guy that takes his sets so seriously.
You have a lot of knowledge to share, man.
Experience and knowledge, man.
All right.
What have you seen go wrong?
All right. Well, actually, I'll frame this from a different perspective for those listening. So I get to operate. I'm an operator now, more so than I am a DJ. And what I've learned over time is, it's important that, especially in the club setting, I think, and even in wedding scene, or wherever it is, we as DJs are hired to do a specific task. In particular, unless we are touring artists where people come in to pay a ticket to see you particularly play and put out art, ultimately, and I hate to say it this way because a lot of people will disagree, what we do is a job more so than it is art, even though it is an expression of art. If we say paint a house red, don't paint the Mona Lisa. And so for DJs, understand what you are doing in the venue you're playing. And I heard a lot of those same things in what you said, Whitney, when you said you're traveling around the world, you were constantly reading rooms and adjusting to make sure that you were accommodating artists. You might want to play, more cool underground house stuff, but, necessarily out of the necessity of the job, you are playing to what the job requirements are. And I think that's important for us to know because it's so easy for us to get engulfed in the art and play what we like. And oftentimes I see DJs get so hyped in playing what they want to play, and you just look out at the room and you're going, what the are you doing? And, keep that in mind. And then number two, I think we, oftentimes get DJs often get embroiled in thinking about impressing other DJs. And for the most part, I don't think that's important. We joke about the DJ change songs. Well, I play for the audience out there. I don't play for any DJ out there. And I've never cared what any other DJ has, unless it's a serious show where I have to open and I have to do a specific task. Like
I knew I was going to call you out on that.
Okay,
I know one show.
Okay, yeah, I took the Armin set seriously, but that's different. But that's a specific thing I have to do. But otherwise, listen, if DJs are critiquing you while you're playing about something you're doing and whatnot, and you're still killing the room, their opinion to me is ultimately irrelevant because at the end of the day, they're in the audience because they're not booked. Guys, you're booked, and people are. If you're able to kill the floor, those guys for the most part are just bitter because they don't have shit to do on Friday, Saturday night. So, think about your audience and think about your employers and put that forward more so than thinking about being super artistic. Obviously, express who you are as a DJ. Don't lose that sense of your individuality and creativity that defines who you are as a set, but also realize that it is a job, and ultimately the job is to satisfy whoever is paying you and the people on that dance floor.
I'll take this, Mike. I think that's a good one. We've had different spins on people, talking about playing to the room and not burning the room or burning open headliners or pushing the crowd too much on what you want to play. But I think the way you said it is, it is still a job. The DJ respect thing is like a whole side thing, right? It's not as important. You said it's not as important as completing your job correctly and entertaining the people who are there to be entertained. So I think there's a lot there that is spot on.
I like it too. Whitney, what you got for us?
My biggest piece of advice would have to be trust your journey. trust your journey. Don't give up, and be prepared, because your dreams are going to come true. You just have to make sure you're ready.
I like
What do you
it.
think?
Oh, listen.
I'm gonna push you.
I
I'm
haven't.
gonna push you a little bit, James.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I've been nice.
Trust.
I've been nice.
Keep going with that whole trust your journey part, because you'll have Mike if you do that.
Yeah,
Trust your journey. I mean, go ahead.
What do you think DJs can do to remain true to themselves? You're saying trust your journey. I'm assuming you mean like, you know, be true to yourself, kind of like make your own path. What do you do to ensure that you are on the right path, or that you're being good to yourself, or like self-care, or kind of just describe how you follow that in that tip?
I set goals. I make a vision board. I'm cautious of who I surround myself with. I pour into myself. I say positive affirmations. I say my prayers, and I get to work. And I mean, I think that's the best thing you can do. I think that's how you stay on track. And it happened for me. Like, honestly, like, trust your journey. Like, it's going to be hard. Like, I remember working at, not Waffle House, but the other pancake house in New York, you know, taking the bus. I remember, like, I lived in Long Island, and I had to take like 2 trains to get home, and I was walking in the dark. I wanted to give up. Like, the shit sucked. And I remember I had to move back home like 3-4 times, you know, before stuff started to pick up. And it's just like, I know it's going to come. I didn't know from what direction. And how I ended up getting my first gig, I met somebody off the street that I just asked for help. And he's like, hey, I'm going to connect you with my boy in Miami. I had no clue who this man was or who he was about to connect me to. But, you know, just being ready, just not being afraid to ask for help, and just trusting. I knew I was going to come across somebody that could help me, and I didn't give up. I wasn't afraid to just say, hey, like, can you listen to my mix? Like, I'm trying to get somewhere. And just be ready. You got to trust yourself, because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be days where you just want to cry and just not go on, but you have to.
See, James, little follow-up question, and we got what?
Really
set goals. We got have a vision board. We got ask for help. I mean, those are some solid tips that I can get on.
I'll be honest. Those are both of your guys' points are 2 of the best I've heard, and we're how many episodes in? So
13.
Yeah,
shout out to you, Chang.
Shout out to you, Whitney, man.
Guys, where can people find you? Give us your internet handles for whatever your favorite social medias are. Chang, we'll start with you.
Well, since I'm basically retired, I'm not going to shout that out, but I'm always on High Street, usually at Ethel or Midway. So instead of shouting that out, I'm going to shout out all the guys that work for me, because they're fucking great DJ.
It's
great
okay.
DJs.
Yeah, you can curse.
No, honestly, and the guys who've, you know, Mike, James, I've worked with you guys for a long time, you know, back in the past. So, you know, growing up in this community with you guys, it's been awesome. So shout out to, you know, Connor Mulrooney, Mitch Wilkins, Cody Bird, and Sam Biederman, all these guys that have been with me, and they're really what makes High Street awesome. And also shout out MBFP for keeping the dance community in this city kicking, even though they're not throwing shows right now. So I'll give attention to those guys rather than me, keeping the dance, keeping music alive in the city.
Well, dude, I'll tell you what, now that I know you're there, I don't know if I'd go into Midway as much anymore like I used to, but if, you know, me and Mike are ever off, man, let's go.
I'll just say come on a game day when we have our new block set up for the outside in the parking lot. It's a lot of fun. And you know,
Nice.
Game day is the one day where it's acceptable for all us old people to be on campus again.
All right. Deal.
Agreed.
How about you, Whitney?
First off, shout out to you guys, the Columbus DJ podcast, you know, just for putting this together. I think this is so dope. You know, I've been tuning into a few episodes, and I've learned about some DJs that I didn't know, and it's really cool. This is needed and appreciated. You guys can find me on social media at Whitney Taylor Ray on Instagram. I also have a Facebook page, it's Whitney Taylor Ray. On Twitter, my name was too long, so it's just Whit Taylor Ray. I'd also like to give a shout out to me and my husband's company. It's called Afala. It's an African fashion line. We're starting off with African face mask. You know, a mask is mandatory, so you can find me on social media. Hit me up if you need a mask. I also want to shout out Loudwave TV. That's
Those are nice. Those masks are sweet.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Nice,
those are very nice.
So yeah, tap in social media. Shout out to Afala. Shout out to Loudwave TV. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in.
Man, if only there was like a nightclub that you could like set up shop outside, and you know, anyone who had a mask, you could be like, "Hey, go get that mask from Afala right here."
Oh, I could easily set that up for you,
dude. I
There
would
we
love
go.
that. I'd appreciate
for
that.
sure.
And if you were watching this on YouTube, you've definitely heard something that that helped you out as a DJ, or you were entertained by something, or you're gonna go to Chang's house if the revolution comes. So like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more podcasts, more gear reviews, more tutorials. We do everything DJ on this channel. Chang, Whit, thank you guys so much for being here. So much great information. We made it right to 8, so I know that's pretty good. James, take us out.
Thank you guys so much. Episode 13's in the books. We do this for the community. You guys are awesome. Hopefully, we'll get you guys back on here again sometime. So thank you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Much respect.
Peace out, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Stay safe.
You too.
Yep.
Thank you.